Welcome everyone to Edge Talk Radio. I am Angela Zabel, that's me, and today I have Brandy Gillmore, and we are going to dive in deep on how we can heal our body with our mind. It's going to be an interesting one, and you don't want to miss it. And so, who am I? I am Angela Zabel. I am a teacher, coach, and medium. I've been connected to spirit my entire life. And as I've done that, I've worked with the team in the non-physical. And even throughout this program, you will hear me saying they, them, they, here. It'll change all the way through, only because they are continually changing for me, and they don't really care about their names, and I got tired of dealing with it. So there we go. So I connect with those from a multitude of realms. And as I've done that, I have been working as a teacher, coach, medium. I write, I am a radio show host, retreat host, I host gallery readings. And with that, I'm also doing speaking engagements and working with people throughout the world. You can also find me on angelazabel.com. And with that, I offer guidance, mediumship, intuition, and I also have the Amplified Universe membership. This is a membership that we are diving in deep. Who are we? Why are we here? What is our role in the world today? And it is so much fun. So you can find out more about me again at angelazabel.com, and I work with people throughout the world sharing knowledge. And today we are here with Edge Magazine. Edge Magazine is the leading events and media resource dedicated to all aspects of holistic living. And here's an example of one right here. The examples of holistic living, health, wellness, and the mysteries beyond, sharing information, wisdom, and resources committed to promoting people, businesses, organizations who support our collective journey to wholeness and balance. It's currently distributed in 30 states and Canada with 17,000 magazines per printing, but it has a vibrant online magazine with over 42,000 people reached per month. So have a magazine shipped to your door, make yourself a drop spot, and sign up for their newsletter if you want to keep up to date, and check out their online presence, because there's more online than could ever be in this magazine. And you can find out more about them at edgemagazine.net. And today we are here with Brandy Gillmore. Brandy Gillmore is a researcher and mind-body healing expert who has been captivating audiences worldwide with her incredible ability to demonstrate radical healing using only the mind. She has even shown visual proof of the power of the mind using medical thermal imaging. Due to these breakthrough results, her case studies have been published in a prestigious medical journal. She has also delivered a mind-expanding TEDx talk and has been featured in several documentaries. Brandy's groundbreaking discoveries stemmed from her own debilitating injury. After an accident in 2003 left her disabled, in excruciating pain and without hope of recovery, Brandy began searching for a cure. Through years of exploring every avenue for healing, Brandy eventually discovered an obscure research that changed the course of her life and resulted in a complete recovery. Now she is releasing her brand new cutting-edge book, Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body, where she shares the hidden research that is the key to her success. Several researchers and doctors have referred to Brandy's new book as a must-read. It holds an incredible missing key to healing. And the reality is that our minds possess an extraordinary ability to heal, far beyond the placebo. And Brandy's new book helps the reader understand the missing link on how we can all access the hidden healing potential of our minds. So make sure to go on Brandy's website. It's brandygillmore.com. She also has a limited time self-training healing 90-minute masterclass, and you can watch some of the live medical thermal imaging going on. So make sure to check that out. She is also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And her book, Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body, is on Amazon, Kindle, and multiple other aspects out there. So make sure to check those out, and all those links will be down below. And she also has multiple And some are from illness to wellness, the gift method, heal yourself, change your life, podcast, VIP coaching, and so much more. So make sure to go on her website, brandygilmore.com. And Brandy, I am so happy to have you on here today. I just want to thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I gotta ask, who was the Brandy before all of this?
You're beautiful. You're beautiful. Just watching you deliver. You're just beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
it's wonderful to connect with you. The Brandy before this, it's so funny. It was lifetimes ago, it feels. When you think back and you're like, that was a completely different version of me. And it's crazy how much I've changed. This is literally what I do now is the last thing I ever thought that I would be doing. I used to do network engineering and operations. Um,
Oh,
and that's what I used to do, working in telecommunications, and very athletic and not really spiritual at all. I was raised Lutheran, and growing up, I figured I was just pretty much agnostic. I was not into any spiritual religion. I felt like I was so far detached from any of that. And then I had my accident, and basically I had two accidents. Technically, I had a car accident and then a fall, and I fell just wrong, just right, however you want to say it. But I went from living a full life to being wheelchair, walker, cane, and my doctor saying there was nothing they could do for me. And so um, that was me. That was the end of me, the former me.
and really, when you go from your vibrant life, you were just living everything. A lot of people are going through that life where you're just living. You're not expecting anything to be around the corner, and you're living life to your fullest. And then you go from having everything moving freely, and then being at a short stop and everything stopping. What was the first thing that went through your mind when everything really came to a screeching stop? Did you feel like you still had a chance to get out of this, or were you feeling that defeatedness when that first happened?
No, I felt like I still had a chance to get out of it. I felt like even with my work, they wanted me to come back. I wanted to come back. I said, I'll be back in like 2 months. Or six. I don't remember exactly the time. It's all kind of a blur, but it was a short period of time, like I don't know, 6 weeks, 6 weeks, or 6 weeks or 2 months or something like that. I was like, I'll be back. I just need to take some time off and heal. And then 2 months came around, or then the next thing, and it's like, well, I need a couple more months. Well, I need a couple more months, and months turned into 6.5 years.
Wow. That's a huge blow to a lot of people. And as you started going through this where things kept getting delayed and delayed with your own personal healing, how did you mentally keep yourself going? How did you mentally keep yourself still looking for something different? Or were there times you just kind of gave up and felt like there wasn't anything there for you?
Yeah, I would say it at first I was in this place where I was like this holding pattern, thinking, okay, well, my doctor's going to find something. It's like, okay, well, let me go see the next specialist. Well, okay, I'm going to go see the next specialist. So it was like this hope of finding a specialist that could heal me was the case. And then you kind of count down. So then at that point, I would just try to check out, just watch TV or do anything I could to distract myself, and just, wait for the next appointment, count down the days for the next appointment and distract myself, lay there in pain, try to get out of pain. It was just like surviving through and saying, okay, well, there's an appointment coming up. I just have to make it to that. And, and then, and not sleeping and all that. So it was just survival mode, but it was okay because I thought, like, I mean, it was extreme amount of pain, but it was just like, okay, well, I'm going to get fixed. It never really fully registered that I wasn't going to heal. Um, at first, I mean, then after a while, I got to a point where I couldn't even watch TV because I would cry, because I would just watch other people living their life. I missed doing things and being things. And so and it was just like, it reminded me of everything I was missing out on in life. And so I couldn't, I stopped watching that. But I got to this point where if I could just keep researching, like research became both um, it became an addiction and a form of survival. Like I had to figure out the answer. I had to figure it out. It was just like was a puzzle you need to figure out. That and also an addiction because and as soon as I would stop, if I stopped and I took a couple of days off researching, it, I just I just lost hope very, very, very quickly. And so for my own mental sanity, I had to keep going.
Is that, and that's a lot to handle, especially that long of an illness, that long of debilitating time and pain. Would you recommend for others, and I know everyone is different, but would you recommend for others when they can't find answers to do their own research to keep stretching themselves to look for the answers more? Is that something you would recommend?
I mean, absolutely always. And, you know, so my injury was over 20 years ago now. And when my accident and, back in '03. And so, yes. And I mean, um, to me, everything leads back to the mind. And so I would say yes and no. I mean, I spent money I didn't have for many, many, many years trying every supplement and diet and magnet and detox and cleanse and all of these things. And I would say part of the reason that I figured out the answers because I did everything wrong for a lot of years. Um, Figured out what not to do. But I mean, my hope, of course, would be to shortcut it. My hope is this is really that have you heard of the 4 minute mile?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so
I
it used to
use it
be,
a lot for people
go
to
ahead.
understand. I use it a lot for people to understand. So yes, go ahead and share that, please.
I love that. Yeah. And you use it a lot for people to understand how.
To understand that the mind can break through. The mind is the barrier, and the mind can move yourself through. If you believe it, if you believe you can only do a 4 minute mile, then you're only going to do a 4 minute mile. But once somebody breaks it and you believe it, you can break it too.
Exactly. And of course, it takes the follow through, but yeah, absolutely. And so kind of expanding on that, it was thought for many, many, many years that a human being could not physically run fast a 4 minute mile. And then Roger Bannister ran the 4 minute mile, and then, and then others did the same thing. And so what I see is this, is that all the time I'll show people how to release their own pain, how to heal their body, how to get results. And then I go, oh my gosh, then I released my headache. I had a headache and then I got rid of that. Or I had this and I got rid of that. And the thing of it is, when you stop and look at healing with the mind, it actually makes logical sense. It makes like, the former network engineer in operations, like from my past life, when everything wasn't working, when I wasn't healing, when I wasn't getting results, said, okay, what is the formula? What do I need to do to get results? And when you stop and really understand it, it makes logical sense. And so my hope is what you asked, would people, would it be good for people to spend years and years and years researching and all of that? I mean, yes. And my actual hope is really that everybody wakes up to the awareness that our minds are amazing, and that nobody has to go through the 6.5 years that I went through, and that everybody learns that we can heal themselves, ourselves. So
You broke the 4 minute mile with your book. You broke the 4 minute mile. You broke the perception of so many people out there. And I just keep hearing from those on the other side, I just keep hearing the applause for you, and they're saying, thank you. Even though you took a heck of a journey, are helping so many people with what you have learned and how they can break the 4 minute mile of pain that they've had for so long. So thank you so much.
so beautiful. Thank you so much. My heart receives that. Thank you.
And they want to say, I just keep hearing from them, your intuition had been on fire for quite some time. And even when you were younger, your intuition was there helping you throughout your life. And that intuition helped lead you to show you what more there was to do. And I also keep hearing, I'm just going to say, they're saying all the as you said, sometimes wrong turns or felt like you were going through a lot of money was really not a wrong turn, but seeing how others were also doing it and how you could then shortcut that with your intuitive ability. And what a gift for you to share that with so many others.
Thank you. Thank you. And when I was going through my injury and I was looking for one doctor after another, to your point, I went through, but basically it was one research study after, or one doctor after another. And finally, I had been going to this research hospital where in the hospital, there would be 3 or 4 doctors that would come into the room at the same time, and they would evaluate you and try to get a plan together, because I was like, I have to get better. You don't like, I'm not giving up. There is not a no, I have to get better. And finally, these doctors got me into a research study. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm going to get my life back. It's what you hope for, is that somebody will invent something new. And oh my gosh, whatever you're suffering from is gone. And so that's was my hope. And so leading up to this study, I felt like a kid waiting for Christmas, counting down the days. And finally, this study comes. My friend takes me to the hospital, wheels me into my wheelchair, and I'm laying there in the hospital bed, just thinking of all the things that I want to do. And the doctor, he comes in and he's got this look on his face, and I can tell something is wrong. And he just looks at me and he says, Miss Gillmore, you can't be a part of the study. We don't expect you to get better.
Wow.
And I felt like I swallowed a tennis ball. Like I just was trying to choke back the tears. I was devastated. And the next memory I have, basically, I don't remember leaving the hospital that day, but the next memory I have, I'm laying in my same bed and I don't even want to open my eyes. I'm like, what is the point? I can't live like this. I can't be in this much pain. I don't have my light. Like, what am I going to do? Spend the rest of my life like this? I can't. And I had this voice come into my head that said, but Brandy, what about the placebo? And that, to your point, that intuition, that guidance was a pivot for me. And don't get me wrong, like I wasn't like, yay, there's the placebo, I'm gonna get better, yippee. I was like, but yeah, okay, well, it was this feeling of feeling like, from a placebo is a fake pill. In any research study, there's half the participants, or a certain percentage of the participants get the real drug, and a certain percentage get the fake pill. And I thought to myself, well, it's well known that a certain percentage of people can get better just from the fake pill. And it was just this feeling of feeling like, well, I can't give up. If there's a possibility that I could somehow get better, then I can't just check out now, kind of feeling. And so it made me want to research the mind and figure out how it works. And I did all the wrong things for many years. The placebo, I thought it was just due to belief. And so I was forcing myself to believe I was already healed, and forcing myself, and chanting and affirmations and telling myself and believing and forcing myself to believe. And it wasn't working. And then I came to realize there's something called the open label placebo, which is where both the doctor and the patient both know it's fake because it's open label and it still can work. And I was like, okay, well, clearly it's not all about belief. and it led me, and I had been doing the meditation and the theta state and the binaural beats and the positive thinking and the mind programming and all of the things, and I wasn't getting better. And so it really drove me to figure out, but what is it, and what specifically do I need to do to get it to work? And but yeah, it was so many things, it just trying to figure it out.
Oh, and there's a lot to figure out and for you to move through that. And when you started, because you have such an inquisitive mind, I just feel the inquisitive mind on you is just crazy. And when you started seeing the placebo was working, even when people knew it was a placebo, what did you change differently in how you were doing things? Because at that point, you had been doing the positive affirmations, you were doing all the belief aspects. What what else did you add in there when you discovered that part of the study?
I felt a little duped, to be honest with you, because a lot of people had all said, just believe, but like, so it was like, I felt like, man, there has to be more to it. So, I mean, I more and more and more, because initially it was just more and more and more theta state, more delta state, more, and it wasn't working. I would say the next pivot really, because it not being about belief then made me turn even more towards deep state of relaxation, of
Mm.
hypnosis, of guided meditation, of sounds and sound healing, and frequencies and binaural beats and affirm, like all of the things for, I mean, hours and hours and hours and hours per day. And, you know, bingo. So my channel is coming. There's a story I want to tell, and that is because it speaks to what you were saying. It's like
I
on my
hear
channel.
it.
But to finish that story real quick to your question, it is that so funny because you're an open channel. My channel wants to play with you. It's like, oh, here we go. So, anyways, all right. So basically, it's so funny. My channel is so open. Hold on. Bingo. Yes. Okay.
You
So
might as well just say what they want you to say because they're not going to let you off.
you know it so well. But I'm like, so it's so funny to go from network engineering and operations to like woo-woo channeling information. And then I have both. I'm very logical and analytical and also bingo channel information. And so my brain also is like, well, let me give it succinct. So the succinct part of this part is this. If I wrap this part in a bow, it is this. It is that, yes, it is that I had been working on, all of the things. And then a friend, her mom, or I'm sorry, not her mother, her aunt was passing from lung cancer. And she messaged me. She called me and said, if she asked if I wanted to say goodbye. And I said, of course, yes. So she came over, she picked me up, she took me to her aunt's house. And as I was saying goodbye, so I said bye. And she had been, in hospice and final days for a few months and in and out. And I had this epiphany. It was kind of jarring. And after I said goodbye, I looked at her and I thought, gosh, that's probably what I look like every day. Because I would just lay there like in a deep state of relaxation and theta state and delta state, trying to just maintain this deep state of relaxation to heal. And it was like, you know what? If that was so healing, then she would already be healed. I have to do something different. And so it was so many key distinctions at different times. So that was also going like, okay, I have to go beyond belief. I have to go beyond just telling myself and the affirmations and the what is it? And so there's that. Now, bingo. Now I want to skip ahead real quick because the story that's sitting on my channel, it's to your point. When you said this intuition has been so helpful throughout it is. And this is what's funny is that fast forward, when I did figure out how to heal myself, I had been working on walking without a cane. And I was working on walking without a cane and working upright and how to get my gait and to stop walking with a limp and catch my balance. Because at first, when I was walking without a cane or a walker, it looked like I was trying to fly away because anytime I went to go lose my balance, I would flap my arms. Like, when you get so used to a walker or wheelchair cane, you expect it to be there, and it's retraining your nervous system to let your legs do the work instead of your arms.
Yeah.
And so I had been working, and there was this working on walking, and there was this song that I would walk to that had no words. It had no words, but during my injury, I'd been listening to all of this, music, but I had a six, like basically in my room, I had everything was on the remote, like fan was on the remote, lights were on the remote, music was on the remote, everything. There was a remote for everything. And I had a 60 CD changer. So it tells you it's a couple of years ago now that I don't think we'll have CDs anymore.
Yeah, we won't date too much here.
Right. But there was this CD number 57, track number 4. And I would, every time I went to go walk, I would just, like, it didn't have any words, but I would play it. And it had this beat. And I would just work on trying to walk, pace, and get it, right? And so I was doing it and I got it, right? And then so finally I'm better. Fast forward, I sold my house. It was in Northern California. I sold my house. I said, you know what? It's time to leave. I'm all better. I'm healed. I have to it's time to go and fly and be free and all of that. I took my special CD, that CD number 57, track number 4. It was the last piece of anything in the house. The movers took the rest. I grabbed my personal belongings, got in my car, opened the garage door to pull out, put that CD in. The name of the CD, the name of the song was She Walks in Beauty. I sat there and listened to a song of She Walks in Beauty the entire time, working on walking, and I never realized it. And what made me I sat there and I just cried, because the whole time going through my injury, I had felt like I was alone. I felt like I was trying to figure it out and just do this. And then the awareness that the whole time I had been sitting there working on walking to a song called She Walks in Beauty. And it was just like the universe was just there with me and with us and all of us all of the time. And just that feeling, it just was, we're so connected and bonded with the universe more than we all know, and I don't have to tell you that.
Absolutely. And, one of the things, not that this is a religious aspect, but there's the poem with the footprints where they say, when you couldn't walk alone, Jesus was carrying you. And that's what that reminded me of. Just a reminder for people, when you're feeling alone, someone's always there. Someone's always supporting you. And for me, I tell people, I don't care what you believe, what you call it, whatever name, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what you call it, who you call it, whatever you want to put it as. It's an energy there of support. And to know that love and support is always there for all of us, that's all that matters. What you call it,
I
they don't care.
I love that. I always say universe, God, energy, divine, mother nature, whatever you want to call it, it's there. Just like birds know how to fly south for the winter, animals get information. We're all connected more than we realize. We just feel disconnected, a lot of us. And I know in my past, I had been very disconnected, but to
Oh,
your point, true. Yeah.
absolutely. I've been there too, where you felt alone. And especially you also went through that. They're calling it kind of like a reawakening of understanding, trusting your intuition, bringing that intuition in. A lot of times people feel very alone during that process. And to know, they're just saying, when people are going through a lot of things, they're always there. So many aspects, different realms are always there supporting us. And you have trusted your intuition much more than you ever have before. And they're saying, as you trusted that intuition, it started coming out into that woo-woo aspect that a lot of people look at. But it's just our natural state, but people call it woo-woo. So I'm like, why would you call something natural your woo-woo?
Exactly. I call it universal Wi-Fi. It's
Yeah,
like our cell phones all connect to Wi-Fi, or our computers, even if we're in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, very true. Touche.
And we all have access to Wi-Fi, but the only thing is some of us, our minds, and I know that was me in the past, and I didn't even realize it. I mean, when I worked in technology, I didn't even know I had emotions or a subconscious mind. It's 20 plus years ago. I had no idea. But the more you really, obviously, the more you work with your mind and clear your mind, the more you can just tap into universal Wi-Fi, and it's incredible.
Absolutely. I love how you call it the universal Wi-Fi. I would call it the intuitive antenna. Our body is the intuitive antenna. So it's like,
Okay, that's great. But I am picturing us all now with antenna on our
yeah,
head.
GTD. Well, they do think a lot of times we're crazy. So, the tinfoil hat's not too far off.
Yeah. I always try to ground the craziness. So because the former network engineer and then the woo-woo channeling, it's so funny. Like, I'll take people and I'll show them how to release their own pain under medical equipment, or all kinds of things, heal their body under medical equipment. So then people can see it, because it's like I'm a left brain and a right brain all together, because I'm like, okay, well, look at this. We're going to channel information. But even Einstein credited his discoveries to his intuition. And it
Yes.
makes you think, you go, wait a second, Einstein credited his discoveries to intuition? Huh. You start to think about that. That's loud, speaks
Absolutely.
volumes.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you took that right and left brain, which is really just us, but and all that intuition around us. But you combined it and you started using the medical aspects and having that thermal imaging, having them see the results, because really how beautiful it is for someone to actually see it. It's like when you take a test, it's if nobody grades the test, you don't know if you did any good or not. This is doing the thermal imaging and the other aspects so you can see, look at the change, physical change that they can physically see. And I think that is something so huge. When did you decide and when did you start bringing that combination together to bring some of that imaging together with as you were doing the healing?
Yeah, I after I healed myself, I thought people are going to think this is impossible or crazy, and I wanted people to see we can all do this. It's not that just I'm amazing. Yeah, yeah, I'm amazing. We're all amazing. And so I started showing people and how to do it. And then I started showing people how to get out of pain. And then also I was at the same time, people started asking me to speak. And so I was speaking on in different locations. And so then I was speaking, and then I would start taking people from the audience who were experiencing physical pain, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, whatever it was. And I would show them how to get rid of it, to alleviate it. So it was gone. And I thought one time as I was getting off a stage, I thought, someday somebody's going to say, well, that was fake. That they couldn't have really had pain. They must have just said, oh, I had neck pain. Ta-da, now it's gone. And that would have been me before. I was world's biggest skeptic. So I probably would have been like, that can't be real. And so that's probably what has driven me more than anything is my own, knowing how I would have been in the past. And so I thought, well, I have to figure out how to show this under medical equipment. And so there's somebody here in LA, advanced thermal imaging, and it's Dr. Hillary Smith. And so I reached out to her, and she's been doing thermography for many, many years. She's a chiropractor. And so I reached out to her and I said, I told her what I wanted to do. And we were able to set up a structure around it where she set up her medical equipment and I worked with people while they were being scanned. And what it looks like is this is to describe how it works. Is it if somebody has some type of injury, maybe a sprained ankle or an infection, it can emit heat. We have heat in the body. And so medical thermal imaging can detect heat at an insane level. It's very high, very advanced technology and deep in the body. It's incredible. And so what we would do is she would scan somebody, and let's say she was scanning their neck area, or she's taking images of their neck area. And if they had pain, you'd see this big red spot over their neck. And then I would show them how to use their mind. And in real time, you could see the scan turn from red to green as their pain goes away. And what I loved is not only could you see it, but also you could see it wasn't just mind over matter or positive thinking or hoping it was gone or ignoring the pain. You could actually see that there are physical changes taking place. And I think that is just profound.
And that's key for so many people because a lot of people look at this and there's, I like to say there's new people understanding more about themselves every single day. New people, some of them call it the awakening. They're waking up to say, hey, maybe there's something more to me than just my body. Maybe there's more I can learn to do with who I am. And this is something that a lot of those people can see, actually see, physically see it in real time. And I've seen some of their scans, and I encourage people out there, go on your website, check out some of the scans, check out some of the information that's there. Because I looked at some of those scans and they are absolutely amazing to look at and so fun. And it also lets people start breaking out of their own mind, their own thing of that can't happen. I need to see it. You can see it. And that's the key. That's the thing I love with yours is you're showing people. You're not just telling people, and like you said, people wouldn't believe it otherwise. Now it's like, there's the proof. My team is saying the proof is in the pudding.
I like your team. Uh, exactly. And that's what I love is actually so I love where you can show one result and you can see it. And another things that I've done with these is instead of doing a study like that, it's continuous. So in other words, if it was, let's say it was over the period of a month, somebody could say, well, I slept on the pillow, or I got a new pillow, or a new mattress, or worked out, or, and you, so you don't know what really did it. And in this period, like you'll see people even on the scans, that's 22 minutes, that's 15 minutes. Like
Nice.
there's short periods of time where they're doing it and you can see it in real time. And then, and it's not just pain. I mean, there's a woman who's on my website also who had a tumor in her throat. And what I love about hers, and I've worked with multiple people with tumors and whatnot who've healed themselves. I don't do it; they do it. But
Love it.
even even with her, she had a tumor in her throat. And what I love about hers, and I share it all the time because it had been there 4 or 5 months. She tried everything to get rid of it. Finally, she scheduled surgery. She had another MRI. It showed the tumor still there, 5 millimeters, and you could see the tumor in her throat.
No.
And on Monday, she had that pre-op MRI. Her surgery was scheduled for Friday. Her and I worked on Thursday, the day right before her surgery. And as a last ditch effort to get rid of it, the tumor had been there. We worked together and she couldn't find it anymore. And then she went in the next day to the hospital and they said, well, I'm sure it's still there and yada, yada. So she went in and then the ENT checked right before they did surgery. And he's like, I've never seen anything like this in my 30 years of being an ENT. I can't operate on something that's not there. And they canceled the surgery. And she's like standing outside the hospital. So again, what I love is quantifiable things, and I've worked with plenty of people, but that where you see it and then it's gone and then it's, the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Absolutely. And I love the fact what you just said. You don't heal anybody, they heal themselves. You're offering the resonance, you're offering an option, an opportunity. They choose to take it or not, and that's totally up to them. And as you've done this, you've been working, and my team is just telling me you've worked with multiple, just thousands of different people have been through your program, have been working with you, have been taking some of that information and using it for themselves. As that's been happening, a lot of people listening are going, okay, you're not doing mind, you're not doing this. So what are you doing when you're working with someone? What is your process of working with someone?
Really, ultimately, if I'm going to tell you first and foremost, it's going to sound a little too simple, but there's more to it. But initially it's going to sound too simple. And here we go. It's this. One of the things that I began to realize, and as I said, okay, I have to figure out how this works. I started looking at multiple personality disorder and medical research, journal after journal after journal has shown that people who have multiple personalities can have different ailments when they're in different personalities. They can have high blood pressure in one personality, but not in another. They can have back pain in one personality, or asthma, or allergies. There's even a well-known study of a woman who was blind in some personalities and not in others. And not like she was faking it. She was medically blind. And they did brain scans and all of these things. And blood pressure, not faking the blood pressure. You could see it and measure it, and different body temperature and all of these things, EKGs. And so what I began to really distill is looking at emotions. And I said, well, how can I see that emotions affect the physical body? And of course, in the state that I was in, I thought I'm going to need a lot more than emotions to heal my body. Uh, I don't.
Need the army.
Oh yeah, like there's no way. But I started looking at it and said, okay, well, if bingo. So I started looking at it and, seeing very simply embarrassment, if somebody's embarrassed, their face turns red, or even panic attack, racing heart, shortness of breath, or sexual thought. sexual physical response. And I thought, yeah, we know that emotions affect the body, but how much do they really affect? I mean, I need something more than this. And I started looking at extreme situations where somebody could die of a broken heart, or scared to death, where somebody's so scared their heart just suddenly stops, or widowhood effect. And I saw all of these ways that our emotions can actually affect us to the point of death. And I thought, well, why isn't this part of the medical system? Like, and not only that, but then I was, researching everything from neuroscience and medical journals and stress and psychoneuroimmunology and Louise Hay and Florence Scovel Shinn and, all of these different things and looking at it. And so what I really started doing was distilling down and saying, okay, well, a few distinctions that were really key was that first and foremost, identifying which emotion was affecting my body. That was one key thing, was which emotion. I say which emotion, but technically it's which combination of emotions. And this is why I say that. Is what I began to realize is that you can see that somebody, like you could see stress affects the body. We know that. But if I looked at it objectively, I could see that there were people with PTSD who weren't necessarily sick, and people with huge amounts of stress. And then there were people who had less stress, who had extreme illness. And what I began to realize is that it takes combinations. Different combinations equate to different illnesses. And the analogy that I use all the time is this, is that, if somebody has flour, they can't make cake. But if they have flour and they mix it with eggs and butter and other ingredients, or vegan eggs and butter, and et cetera, then they can make cake. Now, of course, illness and pain is much different than cake. But my point being is that different ingredients, different recipe equates to different things. So somebody might have back pain or neck pain, or, RA, or PTSD, but with no physical illness. And so, and by the way, people with multiple personality disorder, and just to be technically correct, multiple personality disorder is now called dissociative identity disorder. So it's got a new name now, but
Okay.
same thing. Just it's easier to say multiple personality disorder. But point being is that a person can have no illness in some personalities and illness in others. And so basically what I began to realize is that I needed to figure out which specific emotions were impacting my body and then change those. And it was profound. As silly or as as silly as it may or may not sound. And this is now how I see illness is kind of like this: is imagine if people were walking around and they're having an anxiety attack and they don't know that it's attached to emotions. They have no idea. So they're like, oh my gosh, I need to check my lungs. I need to check my heart. My heart's racing. I can't breathe. What's going on? And they have no idea that it's connected to emotions. And similarly, we have people who have pain, we have illness, all of these things, and they don't realize it's connected to emotions that are in their subconscious mind. So they're like, run this test, run that. And I'm not saying, by the way, avoid your doctors, not at all. Keep going to your doctors. I always tell people, don't avoid your doctor. Instead, blow their mind with what you're capable of with your mind. That's like the saying. So I'm just saying, but yeah, but that.
And that's so true, because emotions, people look at illness as just the physical illness and they forget the emotions behind it. Emotions, I think for me, I feel emotions run everything through us. I mean, like you said, always go to the doctor, always, keep up to date with what you need to do. But just take a moment and ask yourself how you're feeling, especially when the moments, a lot of times you're feeling the pain or just before you're feeling the pain. What's your emotions like? What's your emotional state? And really tap into that and use your intuition to ask where it's coming from, because so many people, I think it's a huge part of the puzzle. And I don't know where you are, but I don't hear anxiety and depression is so high right now. And for people to look at what's causing it, the root cause, not to cover up the symptoms, I think is something so key.
Absolutely. And there's a couple of things that are very profound from that. And first and foremost, as far as healing goes, I mean, we could look at energy and there's so many things we could look at in here, but if we simplify it, it's like this. This is how I started looking at it. Is I started thinking about a stroke. And for instance, if somebody has a right brain stroke, it can affect the left side of their body. It can paralyze their body. And so, or a right or a left brain stroke can affect the right side of their body. And so it depends on where the stroke is, how it affects their body, and it can paralyze the body. And so I started thinking about emotions. Like an emotional stroke, if you will, so to speak, is that the emotions were creating activity in the brain that could damage the corresponding part of the body. And that's what I really started like looking at. And I mean, going into the neuroscience of it and thinking about, the awareness that every part of the body is located in a different part of the brain. Like the foot is in one location, the hands are in another location. And so starting to understand that it makes sense that when we start thinking about emotions in the brain can affect a corresponding part of the body. And further, what's interesting is that there are some illnesses that can be diagnosed by looking at the brain. There are also on top of that, there's research that shows that emotional trauma can actually change the shape of parts of the brain. And so just from an emotion. So we think emotions can't affect us physically, but they very much can. And so that's how I started looking at it and thinking, okay, well, what emotion is triggering in the brain that is then affecting the corresponding part of the body? And that was also a really helpful awareness for me to start creating a change.
And that's something I think people don't realize. People kind of make the connection that emotions can affect your health, but they don't make the full connection, the full ramifications that can come with that. Realizing I think a lot of people, I feel, and my team is kind of saying, a lot of people feel an emotion maybe affects you for a little bit, but they don't feel it's a lifelong or a very long-term effect on your body. And there's so much that is, and especially emotions you hang on to, especially emotions coming through from childhood that come through, those emotions hang on and just start kind of wearing down your body with those emotions, to be aware of that and to really dive in deep on that. And as you wrote your book, were you looking at simple techniques for people to use to help them identify and work through some of the emotions? Or what does your book contain that can help people on their healing path?
Absolutely. If somebody had told me emotions and my mind could heal my body in the very beginning of my injury, I would have probably been offended. And I would have
You might have hit them.
said, guides, be quiet.
Quiet.
Don't
Okay.
tell her.
Okay, that wouldn't have happened.
You're probably right. I'm just gonna say, like, I would have been offended. I would have been very upset. I would have been like, have you not seen I would have thought somebody was lost their marbles.
Yeah.
And I probably would have taken offense to it. And then when you stop and think about it for a moment, so it shows you the research that I found, the awareness that energy, while a lot of people think energy is just woo-woo, that it was actually discovered, like of the physical body, validated and discovered by a medical scientist back in 1923. His name is Alexander Gerswich. He initially called it mitogenetic radiation, but he was nominated for a Nobel Prize 11 times. Now, fast forward, here we are 100 years later. And even right now, there's a database that is a collaborative database under the NASA agreement. It's a collaborative database between the Smithsonian and Harvard that's maintained by the Smithsonian and Harvard that has research on this energy of the body as recently as last month. There are new studies that are constantly being done on this energy of the body, but people don't even know it's real.
That's interesting. I didn't know that those studies were still going on. That Well, I'm going to be checking into some more stuff now.
And it's in my book. So that's and what's interesting. So this gentleman who discovered it, medical scientist, 1923, nominated for the Nobel Prize 11 times, won it in Russia, which was technically like the Stalin Award prize that he won. And so there was all of this buzz around it. But the problem is that we couldn't test it, right? How do you test the light energy of the body? Not
Right.
only that, but a lot of medical research has been done on cadavers. They don't emit any light energy. And
Oh,
so further, what happens is how do you test the light energy of a human body? Well, what they have to do is basically, and kind of to give everybody an idea real quick. So kind of zooming out for a second, when this light energy was discovered, it was initially called mitogenetic radiation, which is kind of a big word. But if we
it's a
just
big
think of
word.
it, yeah, then they changed the name to biophotons, which is easier. And the easier way to think about it is like this. A light bulb emits particles of light, which are little photons. Or the sun emits particles of light, photons. Our bodies emit particles of light, and it's called biophotons. And so any biological source of photons, so a plant, biophotons, an animal, biophotons. So we emit these little particles of light. Again, this information is in the Smithsonian database. And so it's not like a woo woo, and don't get me wrong, I love the woo. So, but there are top hospitals around the world that are studying it. But this is the thing. Now we say the body's emitting little particles of invisible light. What do we have to do to test it? To test it accurately, we have to be in complete darkness. So
Mm.
in these, and it's also something called a photomultiplier tube. I've been in these labs before where you can test it, which looks a lot like going into a bank vault where they lock the door and then everything is airtight and it is completely pitch black. Because of course, if any light goes through, it's going to interfere. And then you can measure the energy that's coming from the body. So point being, it's like, it's not most medical researchers are not even looking at this light energy. But a few interesting facts about this light energy is that research has shown that cancerous cells emit a different frequency than regular cells, than healthy cells. People with diabetes emit different cells, rheumatoid arthritis. So there's all of these different studies that show that illness and further that our brains can control this, our emotions can control this light energy and shift this light energy. And for example, there is a study where researchers had participants visualize white light. And as they did, the biophotons emissions increased from the right side of the head, but not the left. And so there's all of these, or anger increased the energy and so there's all of these different studies that show this. And so it's profound. And so basically that's what's in my book but simplified is basically, what did I find about emotions? What did I find about energy? How does it work? How does it work to get results? What are the factors that we need to change? Because there are certain things in the mind that we need to change.
Yeah.
And then the step-by-step process, how to do it. And to give you an idea how there's different things in the mind that we need to change, another factor that we need to change that is common is that if somebody's been sick for a long period of time, it can become part of their self-image. Once it's part of their self-image, their body then wants to continue to recreate either the same illness or another one and can continue to create problems. And so that's what it is basically the research that I found in my journey, how I did it, how I healed myself, what I found in my own subconscious mind, and then how I've had others do it too, and the step-by-step process on how to do it.
I love that. And as you were talking about that, my team was showing me a lot of people think, well, how does bio parts, aspects emit light, but they want people to think of a lightning bug, how they emit light all the time when they choose to do their own lightning, when they do the lightning bug. When you have lightning bugs by you at all or no?
I don't think we have any in LA,
Oh,
but
okay. Maybe not any there, but
not here, but I definitely have lightning like good lighting all around.
yeah, because we have all the bugs here where they're lighting up at night. They're just lighting up. And they
Ah,
choose when they light up, and they choose they can light up in patterns. They can light up in all different aspects. So you're walking outside and the night sky, the night area around us is just lit up with lightning bugs. So they're saying we are like lightning bugs in that aspect where we choose when to light up for people, when to hold ourselves back, what type of pattern we emit from
well,
each other.
yeah, but it's emitting, our bodies are emitting energy, all this light energy all the time. Now, what's also fascinating is, again, top medical research has shown that, has even suggested that light energy communicates information throughout our body, including homeostasis. And some people might say, well, how is it possible for light to communicate information? And if you stop and think about the internet, cell phones, it's all run on this backbone of fiber optics, which is light. Like our TV, cable, all of it's run by light information. Like that's why information travels at the speed of light.
Speed of light
I
because
can text somebody on, go ahead.
it's just going so fast people don't realize it's been around us, but we don't think of it. It's part of us and we don't realize until we open up our minds, expand and start asking the questions, which is what you've done. You've started asking the questions. If this works, what is this? How does this connect? And bringing that all together. Your analytical mind has served you extremely well.
It had, even just always growing up, I've always been able to figure things out. And even, I mean, in my freshman year in high school, I was in senior math. And so I've always been like, even with network engineering and operations, if something needed fixed and nobody could find the answer, I would figure it out. And so I've always been good at figuring out puzzles and how does it work. But if we're going to even simplify it, the reality is if we just simplify everything, research has shown, we know that stress can increase cancer. We know that stress, like research has even shown out of Harvard that it suggests that autoimmune conditions are caused by stress. We know that, stress can literally impact every part of our physical body. Stress, there's research studies that show that stress can make your eyesight worse. There's research studies that show stress can make it, like all of these things. So if we know that stress, quote unquote, can impact every part of the body, then what happens when we delve deeper into the subconscious mind and realize what is actually going on at a deeper level? And that, again, that is profound. And again, if somebody told me that I could heal based on emotions, I would have thought they were crazy. And that's exactly the reason that I show it under medical equipment, is because I want people to see our minds are all amazing. Now, what I also love is that the way I see health now is like a check engine light on a car, if you will, that if you're driving a car and the check engine's light is on, it's telling you need to fix something. And in life, if we have an illness, it's a check engine light. It is telling us that we have subconscious patterns that are off. And if we address these emotional patterns, we can fix them. And the way to think about it is like this, is it, if we get a little technical here for a moment, but if we look at things like reenactments or repetition compulsion, so we look at Freud's work and we understand that our brains have a tendency to repeat emotional patterns, or we could even call it attachment theory, or we could call it law of attraction, whatever we want to call it. Our minds work in patterns and we attract patterns. And that's been shown, even in psychology. It's well known that unfortunately a woman can have an abusive father and leave him and find the abusive boyfriend, boss, spouse, dog, whatever, like that pattern can show up in a variety of different ways. And it's unfortunate. And I have so much compassion. And simply put, these emotional patterns run in our subconscious mind, and we just don't realize that it's affecting us. So we can look and we can see, well, embarrassment, does that affect somebody's body? Yes. Panic attack, does that affect them? Sexual thought, does that affect them? Widowhood effect, can that affect a person? So we can see all the way that emotions affect the body. And the question, then you just take it to the next level and you say, well, what about the emotions we can't see, like hurt, rejection, criticism, abandonment, hurt, rejection, like all of these things? What are they doing, and what are these patterns doing? And so it's profound when we stop and we understand and we address them. And the gift is exactly that, is we take a pattern that's been hurting us and we change it, and our life gets better, our happiness, our health, everything. And it's profound.
And that's something so huge. A lot of people look at just the outward emotion that maybe presents itself to us every day. So you're angry, and like you had said, the anger, I'm anxious about this, or something's going on, but they forget to look a little deeper, those emotions that we've buried. And a lot of times there's a lot of people out there that have buried those emotions, especially from childhood, from growing up and all the way through, buried them on purpose in order to survive. There's been a lot of survival mechanisms going into burying those emotions so you can continue to go forward, which served you well at the time. But when you start getting physical ailments, that's really a good indicator to go back and go, what's under the surface? Because something is being a catalyst to start this over. And they're showing me, my team is showing me, when you think of a, a pearl, when you have a grain of sand that's in a clam and an oyster, how that keeps grading and it grows this pearl over the top. But you need to know what's inside there. And when you look at that, when you start looking inside, to look at it as something beautiful to look at in order to find what the irritation was that started it all, and then changing it so there's just beauty left.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Absolutely. And I think that another thing that's interesting, so a couple of things on that, is sometimes it's hidden. Like for me, if you would have asked me if I had any type of emotional trauma, I would have said no. I would have said, and fear, was I experiencing fear? That I was so good at burying emotions, I didn't even know I was feeling them. Then there's also the other side of the coin, which is sometimes we can link up emotions as being a good thing, and we no longer recognize them as being a problem. For example, there are some people who have a lot of pride in hardship. So they feel a sense of pride with hardship, and simultaneously they don't realize it's impacting their lives. So then they may want to get rid of the hardship problem, but then they feel the pride with it. And so that's there's some complexity. So remember when I said I make it sound really, really easy, there are some complexities to it that require change. I mean, another complexity is that emotions also control our consciousness and our perception. So we don't even realize it's happening a lot of times. And one way to think about it is, if you're really, 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 really in love with somebody, what happens? You see all the good in them, the wonderful things. Your brain does that automatically for you. Now, if we are in a place where we're feeling really angry or upset, or we just had an argument, what do our brains do? Our brain wants to continue to go back to the argument, or fault find in the person and see them as less than, or blah, 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 or whatever it is, automatically. We didn't say, brain, start fault finding in them. Brain, keep going back to the negative problem. Our brains do it automatically. Now, the point is that our consciousness, our perception in these instances is being hijacked. We're in love with somebody, great. We're gonna have great, positive, see wonderful things. We're upset with somebody, it gets hijacked into the negative. But beyond that, if we're in fear, then we see fear. But we don't even realize it. And it was funny, even in my own life, if you would have asked me if I was in fear, no. And even I was working with somebody the other day, and she said it so beautifully. She said, Brandy, I don't have a lot of emotion around it. It just is fact. It just is what it is. And I said, okay, well, what if it was different. For example, what if you could actually, what if you looked at it in this way? So I had her looked at the situation in a completely different way. And she goes like, wow, well, that would be different. And I said, and how differently do you feel? And she goes, very differently. And I said, well, I thought you didn't have any emotions around it. And she was like, well, wait a second. Because she said, well, I don't have any emotions. It's just fact is a fact. And so my point is,
Yeah.
we have emotions we don't even realize we have that are based on perception that we don't even realize we're perceiving because we just think it is what it is, what it is. And so there's depth to this. And not only that, but to create a real change. Like even when I take people and I help them to release pain in minutes, I always tell them, you need to follow through. If you don't follow through and you make it your new norm and you go back into the old, the pain will come back. And I have had people who have changed, who have released pain, and the pain came back. And then they had to follow through again to create the real change. And I've also had people who created the change and embody it and said, I'm never going back into the old again, and stayed out of pain, and it was gone. So I want to emphasize, I'm making this sound really easy. It does take real change. And so that's the other thing that's in the book as well, is it tells you how to make a real change, how to understand, how to tune into your body, how to understand what emotions you're experiencing, what all to change, and all of that. So
And that real change is also the commitment, like we had talked earlier. You don't heal anybody, they heal themselves. It's how committed they are to healing themselves. It is their choice and what they do. But if they're committed, oh boy, the change that can happen in their life in an instant and can be lifelong changing. And also when you change, when you're dealing with something just like you, when you had something that was so chronic and so prevalent, showing to so many people around you, when you made that change, you had such an impact on the people around you, such an impact for them to look and say, if she changed that, which was huge, and I have smaller issues, I think I can change them too. The 4 minute mile you just created.
that's what I love. And well said. Every time I ever show anybody how to release their own pain, that's what I said. When after they do it, I say, look, you did that. I just showed you how to do it. You're the one that's amazing. You're doing this. We're all amazing beings. I'm not doing it. And that's one of the things that I also love, is that feeling of empowerment that comes from that. When you realize that we're amazing beings, and healing themselves from all kinds of things. I mean, I've seen people who have been bedridden who are now running marathons, starting their own business, doing all kinds of things. And I mean, multiple people. And they did it. Kudos to them. And it's incredible. And that's what I love, is that, the more people wake up to the awareness of how incredible we are. It's the 4 minute mile. I actually at one point was calling it the 4 minute mind, but I didn't want people to stress out and think that they needed to heal in 4 minutes,
Right.
because it does take a real change. And uh,
That is true. People think that they need to do it in that amount of time, or they think they're failing because they didn't do it in 4 minutes.
exactly. It's like Amazon delivery. If this is taking 2 days, this is too long. It's got to be same day.
Yep, same day delivery.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I poke around on people's sites and things like that. And one thing I noticed about you is on the bottom of your site, on your website, you had the human potential revolution. And I saw that and I'm like, I like your style. I like it was kind of hidden a little bit. But what made you decide to call things the human potential revolution? And what was your thinking of having it there?
Number one, it's my business name. And because we are waking up to this awareness that we are all truly incredible. If you would have told me that I could get information from this universal Wi-Fi, or they, them, it, whatever you want to, universe, God, divine energy source, Mother Nature, I would have thought it was impossible. There was a time I would have thought, I mean, I was raised to believe that emotions were for weak people.
Yeah.
You don't get emotional, suck it up, move on. And I was good at it. I didn't have a problem with it. I wasn't wounded by that. I was on board with that. Um, so it wasn't like I was told to shove down my emotions and I felt bad for myself. No, I was like, shove it down. Let's go.
Exactly.
We
Move
have things to
forward.
do. Yeah.
No time to waste with that.
Yeah. What do we need emotions for? I was the type that if I ever got a cold, I would just buy a bottle of cough syrup on the way to work and keep going. It wasn't, I, whatever it was, I walked through fire. Whatever. Okay. I'll keep going until this whole accident took me out and changed my life. But exactly that is that oh, our, like, if it's so, it sounds, this is okay. So let's say this one person that I worked with who healed herself from bedridden for years, and then got better, walked a marathon 2 months later, went and got her license, been flying around the world, all of these things. She said, Brandy, why don't you emphasize more and more to people how great this really is? And I said, beautiful. The more I emphasize to people how amazing it is, the more people feel like it's impossible to do. So I have to ground everything, and I do, and here's a research study, and here's a medical journal, and here's this, but because our potential of what we're capable of is just truly incredible. So that human potential revolution, I feel like there was an industrial revolution, and we look at all of the technological revolution, and now we are going through a human potential revolution when we as human beings are waking up to what lives inside of us. I feel like, that's what we're going through right now is the human potential revolution.
I love that. And I think that is amazing for people to hear. I felt it needed, my team said it needed to be brought up. It needed to be discussed for people to realize we are in a human potential revolution. And I saw that and I'm like, how perfect, how perfect.
I just you think about, that's exactly where we are, industrial revolution, and we look at the all of the revolutions and we see it's where we are, and it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
It's an exciting time to be a
I
and
lost you for a second. I didn't hear
oh,
what you said.
I was gonna say it's funny because the human potential, the revolution started in 1923, and now we're remembering what it is and starting over again.
That's funny you say that, because I always tell people, I didn't figure out obviously that the mind affected the physical body. The only thing I've figured out is how to get radical results and show them under medical equipment. So the breakthroughs that I've been able to create are mind expanding. But even in the Bible, 3,000 years ago, it's written, a merry heart is a medicine to the body. Ill thoughts will dry the bones. And it's also written, life and death are in the power of the tongue. Those who love life will eat its fruit. And so all of this stuff is, even like, if you think about a merry heart is a medicine, ill thoughts will dry the bones. That is stress. And the interesting thing is even studies. So even studies on optimism, a merry heart is a medicine. Funny enough, optimism, even after surgery, people who are optimistic after surgery heal faster, faster cellular proliferation and better results and shorter recovery times. And people who are stressed and in anger and in fear have increased chances of rehospitalization, slower cell proliferation, slower wound healing, all of these things, slower healing if they're stressed or their anger. Or even studies at Harvard has shown that optimism and emotional vitality can reduce coronary heart disease by over 50%. And when you think about it, coronary heart disease is the leading cause of death. So wait, we can reduce the leading cause of death by 50% with emotional vitality and optimism. What? Why are we not doing this? And then you see so many people are suffering from stress and depression and negativity. And it's sad. And, the fact that we can make this change, incredible. And not only that, but even, we look at the Surgeon General released a statement last year that said loneliness is an epidemic and detrimental on our health, increased diabetes, all of these things. And it's like, even mainstream is now finally saying these things, which is nice to see that we're there. We're getting there. It's the human potential revolution.
Absolutely. It's coming together. It's coming together in all forms. And the side effect of that is joy and happiness and lots of fun and excitement in your life.
That's that's actually exactly what I said in my TED talk.
Did you really?
I had my TEDx talk. I said, but I want to warn you, there are side effects. People who are happy tend to have better relationships, live longer. Exactly. There are side effects to this, but you do. It's a better life, and if you would have asked me, like, I did this to heal myself,
Right.
and I had no idea how much my life was going to change.
The
So
benefit of you doing thousands of people the world over. So,
you actually broke up, and I did not
oh,
hear you.
the
And
the the benefit of what you did is changing the lives of thousands. Even though you did it to heal yourself, that healing is now spreading to thousands of people the world over. So even though it was a tough journey, your tenacity has made such a difference for so many in the world. So I thank you for that so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And likewise, your heart and your laughter and your guides and channeling and all of that, just beautiful. You have a beautiful, beautiful heart. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it greatly, and I appreciate you. And we're getting close to the end here. Is there something you would like to, anything you want to add for a comment or a close before we close this interview?
The biggest thing is that, all of the time I'll take, like, even from the audience, when I've worked with people, a lot of times I would take the person who's the most skeptical and say, okay, let's do this. And if you're skeptical, I get it. And if you're not, and a lot of people all the time, a majority of people that I end up working with or come through my programs either are skeptical or have been on the healing journey for 30, 40 years trying to heal themselves, like I was trying the meditation, all of the different things, and it's not working. And yeah, you can get some results. And like for me, it became like a coping mechanism, and I could get my pain down and I could see some results, but I wasn't healing. It wasn't changing my life. It wasn't doing. And so it didn't heal my body. And so really understanding it, but very simply, you know, I would put it in a nutshell. And I would say this is, I would say that, as I mentioned, this information is even written in the Bible, and whatever religion or spiritual background, it's written throughout history that our minds and, are incredible.
Yeah,
And I would just hope that our generation is the one that makes it a reality, and that makes that the 4-minute mile or the 4-minute mind. And because the more people who do it, the more that we can all see that it's possible. And so my hope is, whether you're skeptical or not, that you get results in your own life, both for your life and for this human potential revolution, that our generation, this time, this period, is the one that doesn't just talk about it for 1,000 more years, but actually makes it a new reality. And that's my hope.
I love that. And I do believe we are the generation to do that. So I think it's going to be here.
I like that. I like that. Right. But we got to get everybody to be like, hey, they say research says that it takes about 25% of a population to be able to create a real movement, and so it basically, my focus is this, is that part of the thing is that to make this a change, we have to be able to get results, and
Yes.
we have to know why we're getting them.
Yeah.
And so results and why, because if one person says, oh, it's God, it's Buddha, it's Jesus, it's
Right.
energy, it's the divine, it's source, then we're like, well, what is it now? We're never going to get to 25%, because now everybody thinks it's something different. And so we're never going to create a real movement. But if we say, okay, God, universe, divine energy, whatever you want to call it, but if we start looking at the mind and understanding the mind body connection, we can understand our emotions. We cannot like, so that's really my goal is if we say, look, we can look at emotions, we can understand the mind body connection. If we can understand why we're getting it and we can get real results, that's how we create a real shift. And so it's up to all of us. And I think it's going to be incredible. And the side effect is we get to live a better, happier, more wonderful life. I mean, it's
That's a
not
tough
horrible.
side effect, though. I don't know if people can
I
handle
mean,
it.
sometimes you just have to endure.
You gotta toughen up and work through it. Brandy, I want to thank you so much for being on here. I appreciate it, and I feel there's so much there for people to listen to, people to hear, and for people to really check into your book. I really feel that's something so important, and that's Master Your Mind and Energy to Heal Your Body. You can be your own cure, and that is so true. And I do believe we're getting closer to that 25% because I'm pushing for it too.
Right? I feel like we're pushing for it. We've all got it. We're doing it. That's how we get there, right?
All we
Angela,
need to do.
you're just wonderful. I love your heart. I love your energy. It has been such a pleasure laughing and being here with you and delving deep into all of this. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you so much, Brandy. I appreciate you and appreciate all your sharing with all the people. And I can't wait for all the people out there to look into more of your information also, making sure they're going on brandygillmore.com, checking out your information. You've got your masterclass on there. Check out the thermal imaging. It's a lot of great information on there. So I encourage everybody to go there and check out your book. Go on Amazon, go look at it, and all the links will be down below for all of these, everyone listening. So thank you again, Brandy. I appreciate you greatly. I appreciate all you've done. And with that, I just want to remind everyone to make sure to tune in to the next episodes. They're on the first and third Tuesdays of the month at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can find them on all the downloadable podcasts. And if you want to watch the interviews, which I encourage people to watch them, go on my YouTube channel, Angela Zabel, Teacher Coach Medium. And also, if you've missed any of the past episodes, no worries. You can go on, check out all the downloadable podcasts. You can also go on my YouTube channel and watch those. And I just want to thank everyone here, everyone listening. Thank you all for listening, expanding, and amplifying our universe together. Thank you all and have an absolutely amazing